Good evening. Welcome to the October 5th, 2021 regular meeting of the Gary Common Council. As is our custom, we'll begin with the word of prayer. Our parliamentarian, Councilman Ron Brewer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Eternal God, we come before you, O God, to ask you for your grace and your mercy, O God. We ask that you will bless us in this meeting. We ask that you will bless the resident that's watching. Bless our visitor coming from and to our city, O God. Bless us in a special way. We ask that you will bless every bereaved family, everyone that's dealing with any type of sickness, that you will heal, you will deliver, and you will set free. In your son, Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. It reminded me of G.E. Patterson. Be healed, be set free, and be delivered. Thank you, Councilman at Large, Ron Brewer. This time we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Here.
Councilman Brewer.
Here.
Councilwoman Brown.
Present.
Councilman Brown.
Present.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Here.
Councilman Lay.
I believe he's logging on, so we'll come back to him.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Present.
Councilman Williams.
Present.
Councilman Lay.
We'll acknowledge him once he gets on.
President Godwin.
Present.
Mr. President, there are 8 present, 1 absent.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With 8 members present, we have a quorum to conduct the business of the Gary Common Council. Reading of our previous minutes. Council members before you. Feedback. I think Councilwoman Brown.
I'm not.
Council members, before you are the minutes of our most previous meeting, September 21st, 2021. Is there a motion? Make sure I have. I don't see the minutes. It looks like Deputy Clerk Reynolds.
Yes, the minutes.
Okay,
The minutes-
they're not in this packet. Okay. Let me, it was a separate email, correct?
Yes.
All right. Let me just, here we go. It wasn't in the packet on our desk here. Council members, before you are the minutes of our September 21st, 2021 meeting. Is there a motion to approve said minutes?
So moved, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Brewer and I think seconded by Council members Weatherspoon, Atkins, and Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 8-0.
With a vote of 8-0. Councilwoman Brown, the mute. Okay. With a vote of 8-0, the minutes of our September 21st, 2021 meeting are approved. Right. This time we'll have the assignment of council pending ordinances and resolutions on first reading.
CPO 2021-78, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioner Latasha Hill, 4014 Rhode Island Street, Gary, Indiana. Property at 4014 Rhode Island Street, Gary, Indiana.
Planning and Development.
CPO 2021-79, an ordinance approving payment for more than one position of employment, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Finance.
CPO 2021-80, an ordinance approving payment for more than one position of employment, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Finance. Finance.
CPO 2021-83, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for the American Rescue Plan Act Fund 176 for the payment of 2020 premium pay, eligible public safety payroll expenses, and provision of government services. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Ways and Means.
CPR 2021-10, a resolution by the Gary Common Council in support of breast cancer awareness and establishing the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Gary, Indiana. Sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Council in the 5th District, Gary Common Council.
Boards and Commissions.
CPR 2021-11, a resolution of the City of Gary opposing NIPSCO 17% gas rate adjustment, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary.
Public Safety.
CPR 2021-12, a resolution of the City of Gary Common Council approving a purchase by the City of Gary Redevelopment Commission, sponsored by A.J. Bittner, Executive Director, Redevelopment Commission.
Planning and Development.
CPR 2021-13, a resolution of the City of Gary Common Council approving the project development agreement within Fulcrum Centerpoint LLC, sponsored by A.J. Bittner, Executive Director, Redevelopment Commission.
Planning and Development.
This President is assignment of pending ordinances and resolutions.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, if it's all right, can I do all planning and development at once?
Without objection, please proceed.
Thank you. Mr. President, Plan Development had before CPO 2021-78 and also CPR 2021-12 and CPR 2021-13. I approve this to be reported out on first reading. Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the plan and development we have approved CPO 2021-78 and also CPR 2021-12 and CPR 2021-13.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilwoman Brown.
Finance Committee has before it CPO 2021-79, CPO 2021-80, and 2021-82. For the record, I approve these three ordinances for reporting out. Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
And Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Finance Committee has approved CPO 2021-79, 80, and 82 for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, may I do both of the Ways and Means together?
Without objection, please proceed.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee has before it the following CPO numbers: CPO 2021-81 and CPO 2021-83. For the record, I approve these ordinances for reporting out to the council. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Mike Brown.
Yes.
Mr. President, the majority of the Ways and Means Committee has approved both CPO 2021-81 and 83 for reporting out to the council.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Mr. President, boards and commissions has before it a resolution CPR 2021-10. For the record, I approve this for reporting out. Councilman Williams,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown, Mr. President, a majority of the boards and commissions approves the CPR 21-10.
Thank you, Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, Public Safety Committee had before it CPR 2021-11. I approve this report out on first reading. Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, majority of the Public Safety Committee has approved CPR 2021-11.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, Public Safety, Planning and Development would like to report out CPO 2021-78 and also CPR 2021-12, CPR 2021-13.
You want to go ahead and do public safety?
Yes, and Mr. President, Public Safety Committee would like to report out CPR 2021-11. First reading.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, Finance Committee would like to report out CPO 2021-79, 80, and 82.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President, the Ways and Means Committee would like to report out CPO 2021-81 and 2021-83.
Thank you, Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Mr. President, boards and commissions would like to report out CPR 2021-10.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. This time, we will have our special and select. Any council members for special and select? I'm surprised.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay is recognized, and we also should add his attendance, that he is present, Madam Clerk.
yeah, I
Councilman
was
Lay.
in, but they wouldn't let me become part of the panel, but finally they allowed
Okay.
that. What
You're in now.
Yeah, well, yeah, thanks to you, I'm sure. I would like to announce that I have received my third shot. When I inquired about it, I had it Saturday at Methodist Hospital. It's only Pfizer currently can get the third shot. You have to wait 6 months. And it's the same as the other 2 shots. There's no different. But for some reason, I think they added something where it may protect us against variants. So again, I'm really asking.
Oh,
people-
shut up.
I'm sorry.
No,
Oh, okay. I'm asking people that have not taken any of the vaccinations to go ahead. I mean, we all need to do it, or it's probably not going to work for at least them for sure, and maybe some of us. But I thought I'd make that announcement. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Mr.
Councilman Lay.
President,
Councilwoman
Mr.
Brown.
President, I'd like to also mention that I've had my booster shot and my flu shot. So I am all shot up. I've gotten everything. Saturday, I got my flu shot. I've had my booster shot. So I feel real good about everything. So I've had all my shots. Thank you.
Mr. President, I should have mentioned I had my flu shot on September the 15th. So I don't know why Mr. Brewer is laughing. He should get these shots too if he hasn't gotten them. And you too, Mr. President. But anyway, yeah, I'm shot up too, and if they have a fourth shot for the virus, I'm going to take that one.
Yeah, right.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Councilwoman
President.
Brown.
I'd like to take,
You're muted. Mhm.
who lost her husband, Maurice Bill Blakemore, on the 29th of September. He's going to be funeralized Saturday at New Mount Moriah Missionary Baptist Church. So I want to extend my condolences to the entire Blakemore family. As I said, Shirley's been my best friend for as long as I can remember. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. And I did want to echo the sentiments of you and Councilman Lay as it relates to taking the booster. I took Moderna, so I'm waiting for that to be available. And certainly we'll take it and encourage everyone of whatever age. I know some of my fellow 30-somethings and 20-somethings don't think they need it, but I think we're seeing that it's affecting people at every age. And so we all need to get shot up, as Councilwoman Brown has said. Councilman Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just like to make an announcement to the residents of the 6th District. I am still waiting to hear back from the school corporation for this month's community meeting to be held at Glen Park Academy. A notice will come out to you as well as a robocall. It'll be at 6 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Williams. Other members for special and select.
Yes.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
Good evening. Please join the 5th District's Community Forum Thursday, October the 14th at 5:30, and this will be via Zoom. Our special guest will be Estella Jensen. She's from the Purdue Nutrition Program. She'll come out and give us valuable information and recipes. So please tune in. That's Thursday, October the 14th at 5:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Other members for special and select? Well, I will just add that on Thursday, October 21st, we'll have our next 1st District community meeting that focus on public safety. Both the police chief and fire chief have been invited to join us. I've also invited the Interfaith Justice Alliance, which is a group of religious organizations throughout the city of Gary, and they're particularly interested in issues around public safety, police brutality, de-escalation, body cams. I met with them yesterday, actually, and so I invited them to come join the community meeting to get other people to know about these issues, and they are advocating for the release of the report that the Mayor's Committee put together on these tactics and issues. So looking forward to our next 1st District community meeting on October 21st at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. I also wanted to note that we are definitely aware that many folks, or at least some people, want to come back into the chambers, and gotten that message. And our target is the 2nd meeting in November. We're hoping to get our technology up to speed where we can accommodate that, and making sure that we have the proper provisions in place to have a successful, seamless meeting. And so it's not at all that we want to keep the public out. We're trying to encourage both public health, but also meetings that will work and function properly. So we're working on our technology, but the targeted date, unless there's something dramatic that happens in terms of the public health arena that would make us decide otherwise, is the 2nd meeting in November. I also wanted to note that this Monday will be Hatcher Day for Mayor Richard Gordon Hatcher. first African-American mayor, really of a major United States city, city of Gary. And we will celebrate him. I know that his family, his children are planning some activities and other ways in which the city can acknowledge him on Monday, October 11th. So we want it to be a day on, as it were, and not so much a day off, as we think about the continuing struggles and challenges around civil rights and social justice that he so much stood for during his life and now in his legacy. I don't believe we have any other announcements. Are there any other council members who would like to?
Mr. President, did you
Councilman
want to
Brewer.
talk about the phone call we had about the sanitary district bill?
Sure, Councilman Brewer.
Well, myself and I know the president have received several phone calls from residents concerning where these are owners of rental property, residents that own rental property, where they're having some issues with tenants that leave the property, and when they leave a bill, and the bill is then transferred to the owner of the property, and these are enormous bills, and they're seeing I guess the numbers are going up on them with the number of residents that's leaving. Now they're being killed with the bag with their liens being put on the properties if the bill is not paid by the landlord. Me and President Godwin did talk to different individuals about that, and we did explain that the board is made up by the mayor, where the majority of the board, well, all of the board is made up by the mayor for the sanitary district, and if their concerns should go to the mayor or go to the sanitary district about that. That's definitely their wheelhouse, not the city council, but I want to bring light to it tonight that we did have that conversation. If anyone else should have issues with that, contact those two different departments there, either the mayor's department or the sanitary district themselves, the board members. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Councilwoman Brown.
Worked at the sanitary district. That was a big issue. And it is my understanding that that was an issue. It was done by the state, that the state said that it was okay for the sanitary district to say it was, if those people did not pay their bills, that you could lien their property. But I agree with the person who called today. I heard the person on WLTH who called. And what happens is if you don't pay your bill, and if the property is owned by someone else, then that person is responsible for the bill. And so it's been a problem for a long time. So I don't know what, if anything, can be done to resolve that problem. But a lot of property owners are very upset about that because they're getting large bills because people move out and leave a big bill. And so the property owner is stuck with the bill. So I don't know.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown. Other members for special and select? Let me just add that I was privileged to attend the installation ceremony on, that was Friday. I believe that was Friday of last week for the new chancellor at Indiana University Northwest, Ken Iwama. It's a beautiful ceremony, and it just reminds us of the great institution of higher learning, higher education that we have right here in our community. So good to see all the faculty and presidents and members of the board out of IU statewide, all robed up in their regalia from the various institutions that they graduated from. And to know that we have that resource right here in our community medical school. And I hope that we continue to encourage the growth and sustainability and the economic development around IUN in the years ahead. I know that the new chancellor has a background in economic development as well as higher ed and law. So he's definitely the right person for the job. And I've been putting plugs in the ears of folks around the state about really pushing residential housing in the IUN corridor, because that is so critical to sustaining that area, being able to attract restaurants, and increasing population and density. And really, I think increasing enrollment and the academic performance of the students. We know that there's majority first-generation college students of color, and that it makes a difference when you have that residential housing component and all of the supports that go along with that. I was an RA myself in college. So all that to say, congratulations to the new chancellor, and we look forward to working with Indiana University Northwest. Any other comments from council members? All right, seeing and hearing none. Council pending ordinances and resolutions on third and or final reading.
CPO 2021-68, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of deferring expenses of the Gary Chicago International Airport tax base funds for the city of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time and same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
I move for passage of CPO 2021-68 on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell and Councilwoman Atkins. We'll have the overview at this time. Is that Mr. Harper?
Yes, thank you,
All
Mr.
right.
President.
Thank you.
This ordinance is for the Gary Chicago International Airport, approving their budget for the year 2022. At this time, I have Mr. Hayden or Ms. Chandler Thompson on to give a brief update on that if needed.
Hi, Mr. President and Commissioners, Dwayne Hayden, Executive Director. Again, we're happy to present this. During committee and first and second reading, I gave a holistic overview of the update, and our Finance Manager, Dasha Chandler Thompson, answered any questions for the council. I do have one due out to Councilman Lay. I will actively plan for a future public open house session per your guidance. Last time we talked, Mr. Councilman Lay, I think that was an excellent idea, and I'm working on planning for that, hopefully in the spring, summer of 2022. But we yield for any direct questions that the council may have at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Harper and Mr. Hayden. Any questions from council members? I know that we did get the email from you, and I certainly look forward to coordinating a time for us to come out to the airport. And so I want you to know we did get that communication.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins?
Yes.
Councilman Brewer?
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown?
Yes.
Councilman Brown?
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell?
Yes.
Councilman Lay?
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon? Councilman Williams?
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-68 passes and is so ordered.
Thank you, sir.
CPO 2021-69, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Gary Public Transportation Corporation of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2022 and ending December 31st, 2022, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time and same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown.
I move for passage of CPO 2021-69 on third and final reading.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. We'll have the overview at this time. Mr. Harper.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is appropriating money for the Gary Public Transportation Corporation budget for 2022. The amount that they're budgeting for this year is $11,827,796. I have Mr. McMillan on the line. He will give a brief update on that.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Like to thank you guys for taking up our ordinance for the budget for the Gary Public Transportation Corporation. We really have no other updates than what we've given in the past. We just hope that you'll approve it so we can continue the business of being the region's bus transportation corporation.
Any
And I'll answer
questions?
any questions.
Any questions from council members?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brown.
no questions. I just wanted to comment and congratulate Gary Public Transit. I was in Hammond Thursday evening, and I saw one of our buses running through the city of Hammond providing services. I see it in Crown Point and Maryville on a regular basis, and I think it's so important for us to continue to support the effort with Gary Public Transit for the people that need the service. And I know in the future, maybe we'll get a chance to get on the bus, just like we're going to the airport, and go for a ride throughout the county. I think that'd be great. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brown. Our parliamentarian wanted to make sure that we're moving to adopt CPO 2021-69. Can you restate your motion, Councilman Brown?
Yes, yes. Mr. President, I move to adopt CPO 2021, is that 79?
69.
69, yes.
Thank you. And Councilwoman Barnes
Second.
Caldwell seconds. We've had our overview. Any additional questions?
A couple, Mr. President.
Councilman Lay?
Who's the current president of the board?
Mrs. Stephanie Hewlett is our board president.
She's the board president?
Yes, sir.
When will Mr. Godwin and I get the free bus ride?
If you send me an email,
I don't think y'all want to talk
Mr.
about
Lay,
that now.
we will take care of you.
Yeah.
Whenever you-
No, don't put it that way. I mean, I'm gonna vote for the budget.
I'm gonna pay for mine.
Well, that's good, Mr. Brown. I'm trying to get a free one.
We will service you when you send me an email, sir.
You'll get it from Mr. Godwin.
Okay.
All
Thank
right,
you.
thank you.
Man, you already got your shots, man.
Yeah, but I'm still want the free bus ride. Although I do own the Alpha now. If he won't give it to me, I can ride behind the bus.
All right.
And
Any additional-
I will be supporting it regardless of the free bus ride.
Likewise. Any additional questions or comments? All right. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes,
Councilman Brown,
Yes,
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-69 is adopted.
CPO 2021-70, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Gary Public Library of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
All right, you're muted. Councilwoman Brown,
Mr. President, I move for adoption of CPO 2021-70.
Second.
it's been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Mr. Harper,
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is appropriating monies for the Gary Public Library for the budget year of for the budget year of 2022 in the amount of $4,441,656. I'm sorry, $656. I do have Acting Controller Angela Lewis and Director Dana Morrow on to give a brief overview.
thank you, Mrs. Lewis.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
On behalf of Ms. Morrow, Diana Morrow, and myself, we like to thank the council for taking up this ordinance. And the actual amount is $4,113,089 for our budget.
Thank you. You have any additional?
And
Thank you.
yes, and we have nothing to add to it.
All right. Thank you. Any questions or discussion from council members?
Council President, this is Diana Morrow, the Director of the Gary Public Library.
Mrs. Morrow,
I'd just like to add from the previous two meetings that we are, I'm working with staff and we are planning a day for the city council and other members to come out and get a tour of the library and the Techmobile. And I did send you all an update on the library hours and services. And that's it.
And thank you for doing that. I'll be sending that flyer out in my next mailer next week. So
Thank you.
I definitely want people, residents to know when they can access the public library.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council members? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-70 is adopted.
CPO 2021-71, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the Special Redevelopment General Tax Base Fund of the City of Gary, Indiana, for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown,
I move, excuse me, I move for adoption of CPO 2021-71.
Second.
been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. This will be Mr. Harper and I suppose Mr. Bittner for our overview.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is appropriating monies for the Special Redevelopment General Tax Base Fund for the fiscal year of 2022 budget. I have the budget year total revenues of $211K, and the estimated budget for 2022 is $146,878. Mr. Bittner is available to give like a brief update, and also Mr. Sender.
Are you completed? I'm not hearing anything.
Mr.
Mr. Harper or
Bittner.
Mr. Bittner?
Hi, good evening. Sorry, I wasn't sure if Malik was done. Yeah, as Malik had said, no change has been contemplated since the committee meeting last week. And in fact, correct me if I'm wrong, there hasn't been any contemplated changes to this budget, at least in the third budget season I'm going through here. This is a general revenue account where there's only one thing paid out of it. So happy to answer any questions if the council have anything specifically about this budget.
Thank you. Councilwoman Atkins?
Mr. President, I would like to there's a motion on the floor already, so I don't want to make another motion. But at least just wanted to bring this point up. We had requested for there to be a change to the attachment to 2021-71. What was attached to us was the budget form 1. And so we wanted to see was the actual Excel sheet or the PDF form so it can be consistent with all of the other budgets that we've received. Also, during the review that we had last week, I questioned what we saw on the Form 1 because we saw line items budgeted for professional services as well as other materials. Mr. Bittner at that time stated that nothing was ever paid out for those line items. So I don't see why we should budget for them if historically nothing has ever been paid out for them. So I also would like to see amendments done to those particular line items. So I would,
if I may.
I'm not finished.
Oh.
Thank you. So, Mr. President, I'm not sure what the right protocol would be, but if the chair would consider my point of view, and then if we could take it back to committee, which I know some other ones will be going back to committee, then we can make those accurate changes at that time.
Withdraw the motion.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Brown?
I move that CPO 2021-71 be moved back to committee.
And you're withdrawing your prior motion?
I'm sorry, Mr. President, I withdraw my motion, CPO 2021-71. I withdraw my motion.
Thank you. That motion withdrawn. A new motion has been made.
And the new motion is that CPO 2021-71 be moved back to committee.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion among council members?
Mr. President, just a
Councilman Lay?
question. Maybe I should know why. Why is this called special? Why is this called a special?
Mr. Harper or Mr. Bittner? Or Mr. Cinder even?
Go ahead, Mr. Bittner or Cinder.
Yeah, I think it's been called special. That's what the DLGF has called these for redevelopment commissions because it's really separate from the city's general fund. And it's just been called that for years, but it's a separate levy that is solely for the redevelopment department.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr.
Cinder?
President, if I may, if this motion passes, since tonight was the night that the budget was to be adopted, if the council would consider a motion to continue the budget discussion to a time specific, maybe in 2 weeks, to have that on record. Otherwise, we're in danger of having the budget revert to last year's amounts. It's customary that we had already advertised that the budget would be considered for adoption tonight. But if the council would like additional time to discuss a few items, then maybe an additional motion after your vote to continue the budget discussions until your following council meeting.
Well, I think that's our regular practice. It would reappear on the October 19th agenda. My presumption is that the committee meeting would be next week.
Right.
And there will be an opportunity to make corrections or propose corrections, and then we would do final adoption on the 19th.
It just needs to be documented in the minutes so that the DLGF understands that the council is continuing the discussion.
Mr.
Madam
President.
Clerk, Councilor Williams?
Thank you, Mr. President. Did Mr. Bittner give his reasoning? Because he was about to speak and he was going to cut off Councilwoman Atkins. And he never said anything else. So I'm just wondering, what was his reason?
All right, Mr. Bittner?
I was told previously that the reason that budget is set at the amount that it is because it's the maximum levy that we could potentially actually draw, just like the council and the city's general fund budget. Even though we may not collect all of the funds, in order to garner the maximum levy that we can collect, you actually budget above what you know you're going to collect. So that's inserted into the budget for that reason. And Carl, I don't know if that's something that you want to go over, but that's how it's been explained to me in the past when I asked why the budget just doesn't reflect, in essence, what is just paying out my salary and benefits out of that fund.
Right. I mean, it's really up to the council's desire, but it's not uncommon to budget a little bit higher in case the DLGF does come back with cuts. We know certainly the circuit breaker impact, that does impact the amount of revenues that we receive.
Well, I'd suggest that we hash that out at the committee meeting and just kind of get a full understanding of what we're doing at that meeting. And then, Madam Clerk, if you could just ensure that in the minutes, it's noted that this will remain on the agenda for third and final at our next regularly scheduled council meeting, then that should suffice. All right. Any other questions and discussions about the motion on the table? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-71 is moved back to committee and with a public hearing to be held on October 19th, 2021.
CPO 2021-72, an ordinance of the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, approving an American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA spending plan, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Sorry, Mr. President. Mr. President, I want to make a motion to refer CPO 2021-72 back to the Ways and Means Committee.
Been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been
Second.
moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilwoman Brown and Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion?
Just one, Mr. President.
Councilman Lay?
Is it still our intent to try and have this resolved before we do the budget, final vote on the budget itself?
I certainly hope so. I'd like to see it done by either the next meeting, this particular ordinance, or certainly the first meeting in November.
I thought the budget had to be approved by November the 1st. Is that date incorrect?
I think so. I think last year we were all the way in December, but there was a certain exception. I don't think it has to be approved by November 1st.
Okay, fine.
Unless,
you.
Mr. Harper, you have a different understanding? I know Attorney Colvin is usually all over that.
Give me 1 second. So I have the final date the ordinance needs to be uploaded by October 26th. Now, there is a such thing as, I believe it's a motion that can be filed to extend the date. Carl can better explain that part for you. Carl Sender.
Yeah, Council President Godwin, the last date to adopt budgets is November 1. There are no extensions at all. Otherwise, the budget will revert back to 2019 levels.
Okay.
President.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Thank you. I want to ask a question just to make sure that council members are clear, and I also want to make a statement. So let me make a statement first. So 2172 is just the plan for, I think it was 33 million that we've already reviewed. However, I want to keep the plan as well as the appropriation ordinance together. So we just received the appropriation ordinance for that 33 today. I think it's CPO 2021-85. I think that's the right number. And so both will be reviewed on the October 12th. We haven't set the date, but that's the date of the committee meeting. And so we both will have those for the public portion for third and final on the 19th. I don't see or forecast any issues with that because we've had multiple discussions related to that. But I just wanted to get clarification from Mr. Sender. Again, this is the ARPA plan. Is the only reason why we're making mention to entering into Gateway related to the budget because of Fund 176?
Yeah, so if you want to have the budget adopted for 2022, it would need to be approved by November 1st. Otherwise, you'd have to do an additional appropriation in January before you could spend those monies in 2022.
Okay.
Thank you. There may have been a special exception last year because of COVID, because I know we were voting on the budget in December even, and definitely into, I think even at the last meeting in December, there was a vote. So, but thank you. Any other questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-72 is moved to the Ways and Means Committee. Move back to the Ways and Means Committee.
CPO 2021-73, an ordinance approving salaries for the employees of the City of Gary's General Parks, Kuwait, MVH, pension, and fire tax-based funds for the calendar year 2022. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Councilwoman Brown.
Mr. President, Mr. President, I move for adoption of CPO 2021-73.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. We'll have the overview at this time. I don't think we're ready to do that yet because I think there's a lot of questions and concerns around that.
Okay. See, I love.
Withdraw. Yeah. Right.
Left. Didn't I?
So are you going to withdraw your?
Okay, if you do, go ahead.
Okay. So upon, I guess, the collection or completion of all of the two hearings that we had last week, we still had some questions. The clerk recently submitted an updated budget related to salary. We just got another update recently from the judge. There also was some additional information that we need to review internally with other administrative departments within it on the general fund side. So I think that we need to get those updates, get the ordinance clean, review the new information that has been collected over the last couple of days, because you all don't even have it, honestly. And then be able to come back at a later date for third and final. So it should definitely go back to committee.
Okay.
So Councilwoman, you have a motion on the floor. You have to withdraw that motion.
I'm sorry.
You have a motion. I'll let the president go. I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Okay, so you're withdrawing your motion, Councilwoman Brown?
Yes, Mr. President, I move to withdraw CPO 2021-73.
Okay, to move it back to the Finance Committee, right?
Yeah, it's going back to committee.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilman Brown Caldwell. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer?
was the night advertised for public hearing for 73 and 74?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins?
I will let the administration confirm this, but based on my notes, I actually had that written down somewhere for you.
There's supposed to be an overview.
No, I think that it was initially introduced on first reading. You're talking about the airport budget and the library, correct?
No, I'm
No,
talking about
no.
73 and 74.
Parks and poet.
You would hold the public hearing tonight, because otherwise you may not have enough time between the public hearing and November 1st, because you have to allow at least 10 days after the public hearing before you adopt the budget.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins?
if I might also make a point, what also is important is that we know these things. I mean, I'm the chair of the Ways and Means Committee. I didn't receive any information. I don't know if that's protocol that I should just know that, but I didn't receive any type of information from the administration or stating what is the drop dead date that was the public hearing, first of all, especially, and you know, how to proceed moving forward. So that communication needs to be cleared up. It's too late now, but for future reference. So let's look at the calendar. So we are sending it back to committee. And I don't think that why would you have a public hearing today if you're still going to have additional discussions and there's changes? It'd be one thing if there wasn't changes done from the department heads, but there's recently been changes implemented as well. So if you had the public hearing for this on the 9th, it had to be the 19th again, unless we do a special meeting. I don't know if that's an option.
It is.
Because I wasn't, again, 73 and 74 will again be a joint finance and Ways and Means committee meeting, right? And we already have a lot for P&D as well as Ways and Means on the October 12th meeting that was set 2 weeks ago. So we did committee meetings the same week of our October 19th meeting, or we had the committee meeting on the 25th, which is the Monday, and a special meeting to adopt. We need to think about that now. We can't wait to make that decision.
Yeah, okay.
Mr. Chair.
Attorney Williams?
Yeah, keep in mind that there must be 10 days between the public hearing and the adoption. That's important to calculate that in your discussion.
Right, and so what we may have to do, depending on how next week goes, is move our meeting up, if you will, so that, you know, we won't be so close to the November 1st date when you weigh in the 10 days. So let's ideally schedule these meetings for early next week and make a judgment call about where we are. And we may have to do it on that Monday or some other date with enough time for public notice of even that meeting to ensure we're not running up too close to the deadline. Because it's one thing for us to adopt it, right? But you said it has to be uploaded onto the gateway system by November 1st?
Yes, Mr. President, it does need to be adopted no later than November 1st. And if you're not going to conduct the public hearing tonight, again, you should document in the minutes the date certain and time when you will do the next public hearing.
Well, let me say this, and I'll ask my colleagues, if there's no objection, the public hearing will simply be the controller providing an overview and the public having an opportunity to ask questions and make comments. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I don't think there's a problem in doing that just to prevent us from running into calendar issues. So if there's no objection to just allowing Mr. Harper to provide a general overview, and if there's members of the public who would like to ask questions or call for comment, they can simply raise their hand, and that way we'll have that done. Is there any objection among my colleagues to proceeding in that way?
Mr. President,
Councilman Atkins?
not an objection. I just want to make sure that I understand, and this Mr. Senator probably can answer this for me. So if we do proceed with the public hearing, I'm agreeing to that. If we make changes, like an amendment, this might be a silly, do we have to have an additional public meeting for, public hearing for that with the amended portion?
No, you could do that at your next, at the scheduled meeting to adopt, which is on October 19th, unless you continue that. You just cannot increase the budget amounts.
The bottom line.
Oh,
You could reduce, but you cannot increase.
increase.
Right, and I think given that, I would urge us to just go ahead and have the public hearing tonight. And then continue to go back to committee. We can take that vote. And then, I suppose, reopen this for the public hearing.
Wait a minute, Mr. Cinder, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
Councilman Act.
So when you can't increase the bottom line, right?
That is correct.
Okay.
Of any funds that are published, you could either adopt or you could reduce.
And when you say fund, and I want to be clear on this.
Right.
You're talking about not a particular budget of a particular department. You're talking about the general fund, for example.
Correct, yeah. That
So
is
the
correct.
different levies, okay.
Okay. And if we were to make that kind of change, then we would have to do a new public hearing and wait the 10 days after that. Is that correct?
Yes, and that, you could yet do it, but we're running out of time really to get this published. It has to get, we'd have to reopen it up on the DLGF Gateway. That's where it gets published. And that would almost have to be done very shortly.
Right. Duly noted. So we have a motion on the table to move it to committee. I think we do want to do that. And then what I'd recommend is that following that, we open it up for a public hearing, not taking any votes, but just a public hearing on it. So we've covered our bases on that. And that way they'll help us from the calendar perspective. So if there's no objection, can we take a vote on this motion? Councilman Brewer?
Just a question, Mr. President.
Councilman Brewer is recognized right now, and then Councilman.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mr. President, probably before you do your vote, you probably just need to do the public hearing, because after that, you basically closing the discussion on this.
That's fine. Okay, so let's, I agree with you. That will return to Councilman Lay.
That was what my suggestion was going to be. Let's do the public hearing and then send it into committee.
Thank you. Okay, so we're officially having the public hearing. Please note that, Madam Clerk, in the records. So, Mr. Harper, you're going to provide an overview, and then we'll take questions and comments from those who are on the Zoom to raise their hand. Mr. Harper.
Yes, that's correct.
We need a motion for a public hearing.
No, we're in a motion, so I think the recommendation from our parliamentarian is to have the public hearing.
Okay.
I'll look at our attorney, Williams. Is there any problem with that?
No, that's the proper process.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Harper. His computer may be freezing up. Mr.
All right,
Harper.
I'm sorry. What was the
So you're
question
going to
from you?
provide an overview for the public hearing, and then we'll take questions and comments from the public.
Yes, I will do so. Do we need to set a date and time, or do I set that?
It's right now.
Okay.
And I'm presuming, I know there was a question, I'm presuming that it was properly advertised. I think we said it was. Is the corporation count, I don't know who's ensuring that, but we confirmed that it was properly advertised. I think Mr. Cinder said it was. Not all at once. So we,
I can look
Okay.
up for you the date that it was posted to the gateway. That's the date that governs the proper publication. Let me look real quick, but I'm pretty sure that Mr. Harper had released it at least 10 days prior to tonight.
okay. And by release, I guess it's put in the newspaper, or what's
It is no longer required to be advertised in the newspaper. It just is on the DLGF Gateway website, and any citizen can go and look up the budget amounts.
Thank you. So you're confirming that, so
Are we talking about 73 and 74?
Yes.
Okay.
So just for the public's sake, Mr. Cinder is confirming whether it was properly advertised in Gateway Department of Local Government Finance.
It was shown on the Gateway site. It was advertised. It was released on September 25th.
That sounds like 10 days as of today, I think.
I believe so.
I don't know how they count, but I suppose that's sufficient. So, Mr. Harper.
I'm here.
All right.
All right. And okay, so our overall budget for the year 2022 is, I have here $58,689,493. It is a $2 million increase from the previous year. And this is based on the ordinances that we have put together. There is, there will be amendments to those budgets for the calendar year of 2022. There are several positions that has been either added or removed throughout our city of Gary departments, and that's pretty much it. I don't have any other information to share. If you do have any questions, please let me know. And also, if you need to chime in, Carl, please do so.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. Anyone else chiming in here? Okay, so at this time, we'll take, if there's anyone of our attendees here, I see 9. If you have questions or comments, please raise your hand to be recognized. And while that is happening, I'll ask our media team, if anyone is on Facebook and they have particular comments or questions, then they can type those there and you can let me know what they're saying. And we'll recognize that. I don't see any hands that are up. Okay. Oh, I do see a hand. The Reverend Emmett Pearl Mosley, you will have 2 minutes. Our parliamentarian is keeping the time. Reverend Mosley. You'll need to be brought in as a panelist. Media team, is that happening? Okay, Mr. Mosley, are you muted or unmuted? Yeah, you may proceed. We can't hear you, but you're unmuted. Okay, please proceed. All right, so I don't know what's happening, but okay, so is there anyone else for public comment? All right, anyone on Facebook? Okay, well, what I will say is that for members of the public, always feel free to contact the Gary Common Council office at 219-881-1315. You can leave a voicemail, you can leave a message with one of our staff members, and let them know any questions or concerns or comments you would like to convey to any particular or all members of the Common Council. Mr. Mosley, I'm assuming you're not able to speak? Okay. So I don't see anyone else for public comments, so we'll close public comment. And I think that will conclude our hearing on CPO 2021-73. Nevertheless, we do have a motion to defer, to move it rather, to the Finance Committee.
Mr. President,
Councilman Brewer?
I just want to note that it is going back to committee. That is a motion that's on the floor to take it back to committee. And if there's anyone from the public that would like to speak, that will be your last time to be able to speak, because next time it come before the council, there will not be any public portion. There will be simply just adoption only. So I just want to note that for the public, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Brewer. Any other questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins. Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Witherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-73 is moved back to the Finance Committee.
CPO 2021-74, an ordinance appropriating monies for the purpose of defraying expenses of the General Parks Coit seated CCI, CCD, MVH, LRS, Fire Pension, and Police Pension Tax-Based Funds of the City of Gary, Indiana for the fiscal year beginning January the 1st, 2022, and ending December 31st, 2022, including all outstanding claims and obligations, and fixing a time and the same shall take effect. Sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Councilwoman Atkins.
Mr. President,
Councilman Atkins.
for clarification, do I make the motion now? Do we have the public hearing? Then I make the motion.
Let's just move to have the public hearing, and then we'll make the motion to defer.
Sure. Mr. President, I make a motion to have the public hearing for CPO 2021-74 at this time.
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell, and I think Councilwoman Brown as well. At this time, we'll have the overview, Mr. Harper. And Mr.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. This ordinance is for appropriating monies for the City of Gary operational budget for general park seated COIT, CCI, CCD, MVH, local streets and road, fire pension, police pension for the budget year of 2022. Again, this one is our operating portion. There's several increases and several adjustments to this budget. Again, the total amount of this operating budget is $58,689,493. Again, it's an increase of about $2 million. During our next meeting, we will have adjustments available and ready for the council.
Thank you, Mr. Harper. I'll start with questions or discussion from council members, and then if there's members of the public who would like to comment, then we'll recognize members of the public. Please raise your hand. Any council members have any questions or discussion? Okay. Members of the public, We have 9 attendees here. And anyone on Facebook? Okay. I saw in the chat box that someone asked about where they can find this budget. It is on the Department of mute. Okay, it is on the Department of Local Government and Finance website, Gateway. What I will ask is, I hope I'm not asking for too much, that on our Common Council website, and I'd ask the clerk too, especially, if the latest versions of these budgets could be uploaded onto our local website, and the same with the Common Council website. That certainly for 73 and 74, operations and personnel, that those will be, I mean, Gateway is very complicated. You have to know what you're doing to be able to function within it. Any public comments? Okay, I don't see any. So this will conclude our public comment. And again, feel free to call the Common Council office and offer your thoughts, opinions, and also request any information to be sent to you if necessary. Okay, that will conclude our public hearing. Now we should entertain a motion. We should entertain a motion to move CPO 2021-74 back to the Ways and Means Committee.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins.
I would like to make a motion to move CPO 2021-74 back to the Ways and Means Committee.
Second.
Moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilman Brewer. Any questions or discussion? I will just, Mr. Bugs asked in the chat box, when will we have in-person meetings? Earlier, I noted that it is my intention to begin in-person meetings at our second meeting in November, barring no major changes in the public health condition of our city and country. Any other questions and discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-74 is moved to the Ways and Means Committee.
Mr. President, ends pending ordinances and resolutions on third and final reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Council, pending ordinances and resolutions on second reading.
CPO 2021-78, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage.
Someone please mute Chief Everett. Sorry about that. Please proceed, Madam Clerk.
CPO 2021-78, an ordinance amending Title 15 entitled Land Usage, Chapter 123 entitled Zoning Code of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Gary, Indiana. Petitioners Latasha Hill, 4014 Rhode Island Street, Gary, Indiana. Property at 4014 Rhode Island Street, Gary, Indiana. Would you like for me to read all of them?
Yeah.
Yes, please read all of the planning and development. We'll just do it by committee.
CPR 2021-12, a resolution of the City of Gary Common Council approving the purchase by the City of Gary Redevelopment Commission sponsored by AJ Bidner, Executive Director, Redevelopment Commission. And CPR 2021-13, a resolution of the City of Gary Common Council approving a project development agreement with Fulcrum Centerpoint LLC, sponsored by AJ Bidner, Executive Director, Redevelopment Commission.
Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, I move for CPO 2021-78, CPR 2021-72, and CPR, that's not right, CPR 2021-12 and CPR 2021-13 to move to the Planning and Development Committee October the 12th at 5 p.m.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilman Brewer and seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? It's at 5 p.m., right?
Yes.
Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-78, CPR 2021-12, and CPR 2021-13 passed on second reading with a Planning and Development Committee meeting to be held on October 12th at 5:00 p.m. via Zoom and a public hearing on October 19th via Zoom.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
if Councilwoman Brown, if she would always mute her mic, we're getting a feedback if she does not mute. Maybe you guys are in close proximity to each other. I'm not sure what.
It's not always me now.
No, but I can tell when it comes up.
Well, it's not always me.
Okay, but if you don't mute, it will be you. If you don't mute.
All right. Thank you, Councilman Lay. And I know our media team is helping with that too. So, all right. Okay. Love and light, love and light, love and light. All right. At this time, we'll do our Finance Committee ordinances.
CPO 2021-79, an ordinance approving payment for more than one position of employment, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller. CPO 2021-80, an ordinance approving payment for more than one position of employment, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller. CPO 2021-82, an ordinance revising the Police Department Budget Fund 254 to allocate funds for the fiscal year of 2021, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Mr. President.
Councilwoman Brown.
I move for passage of CPO 2021-79, 2021-80, and 2021-82 Finance Committee meeting on October 12th at 5:30. Is that?
Can we move it to 6 o'clock? Is
6 o'clock.
Somebody else? Councilwoman Atkins.
That would be good.
Mr. President, if I may chime
Councilwoman
in,
Atkins.
I'm not sure if this is okay, but we do already have two ordinances that have been assigned 2 weeks ago, October 12th at 5:30 for Ways and Means. But I would like to reschedule that to the later time to allow Councilwoman to have the earlier time on the 12th, if that's okay.
That would be good. We just need to make sure it's duly published.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
So we'll stick with the 6 o'clock.
No,
for the
5:30.
finance.
5:30.
I think he suggested 6 o'clock because there's some planning
Because
and
of P&D?
development.
Okay.
Yeah, that's at 5.
I got 5 items to talk about on
Right.
planning development.
Okay.
Okay. It's been moved by Councilwoman Brown and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-79, CPO 2021-80, and CPO 2021-82 pass on second reading, with a Finance Committee meeting to be held on October 12th at 6:00 p.m. and a public hearing on October 19th at 6:00 p.m., both of which via Zoom.
CPO 2021-81, an ordinance amending Fund 885, the budgets for the Safe and Thriving Communities Grant, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary. CPO 2021-83, an ordinance for the City of Gary, Lake County, Indiana, authorizing additional appropriations for American Rescue Plan Act Fund 176 for the payment of 2020 premium pay eligible public safety payroll expenses and provision of government services, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary, Malik Harper, City Controller.
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins.
I move for passage of the following ordinances on second reading: CPO 2021-81 and CPO 2021-83, with a Ways and Means Committee meeting set for Tuesday, October the 12th at 7 p.m. via Zoom, and the public hearing would take place Tuesday, October the 19th at 6 p.m. via Zoom.
Moved by Councilwoman Atkins and seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
and President Williams. I'm sorry, Councilman Williams. Councilman Williams.
Looks like he's muted. Frozen, so let's, okay.
Councilman Williams
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, please mute. All right. With a vote of 9-0, CPO 2021-81 and CPO 2021-83 pass on second reading, with a Ways and Means Committee meeting to be held on October 12th at 7:00 p.m. via Zoom, and a public hearing on October 19th at 6:00 p.m. via Zoom.
CPR 2021-10, a resolution by the Gary Common Council in support of breast cancer awareness and establishing the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in Gary, Indiana, sponsored by Linda Barnes Caldwell, Councilwoman of the 5th District, Gary Common Council.
Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell.
President, I would like to suspend the rules and resolution on all three.
It's been moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell and seconded by Councilwoman Brown. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk. This is the hearing of all three readings.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell, Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPR 2021-10 will be heard on all three readings. This time, we'll entertain a motion for passage of CPR 2021-10. Right, so you're moving for passage of CPR 2021-10.
Yes.
All right, is there a second?
Yes.
Right, it's been moved by Councilman Burns Caldwell and seconded by Councilwoman Brown. We'll have the overview at this time.
Resolution simply states that the Gary Common Council in support of breast cancer for the month of October. Every month of October, here in October, cancer awareness. And we are just paying homage to the ones that passed on and have this terrible disease. So we're just establishing awareness, and that now therefore be it resolved that I, Councilwoman Linda Barnes Caldwell, and the entire Gary Common Council do hereby declare the month of October as Breast Cancer Awareness Month in the city of Gary. And we encourage all the citizens and businesses to paint our city pink in support of breast cancer awareness.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brown Caldwell. Echo your sentiment. Very important that we encourage everyone, males and females are affected by breast cancer. A lot of people don't realize that. But certainly we know mammograms are very important. I know Community Health Net and a lot of other local organizations do a great job of also getting the word out. So thank you, Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell, for always keeping, I know you do American Heart Society as well, for keeping us aware of these public health concerns that we know tremendously affect our communities. Other members have a discussion or comments? Okay. Seeing hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins.
Yes.
Councilman Brewer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown.
Yes.
Councilman Brown.
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell.
Yes.
Councilman Lay.
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon.
Yes.
Councilman Williams.
Yes.
And President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, the vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPR 2021-10 passes.
CPR 2021-11, a resolution of the City of Gary opposing NIPSCO 17% gas rate adjustment, sponsored by Mayor Jerome A. Prince, City of Gary.
Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, I move for CPR 2021-11 to go to the Public Safety Committee on second reading with a meeting held Tuesday, October the 12th at 5:45 p.m.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Brewer and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Councilman.
I yield to Mr. Brewer.
Councilman Brewer and then Councilman Lay.
Mr. President, I think this is a concern for all council members, and I would just like to make a motion to amend this by adding all council members as sponsors to this.
Are we doing a motion inside of a motion? Or you intend to do that at the time of passage?
I'll probably want this motion to go before the other motion. So
Okay.
at this time, Mr. President, I would like if the body would entertain a motion to amend CPR 2021-11 at this
So you're
time.
withdrawing your previous motion.
Yes, I'll withdraw it at this
Okay.
time. That's clear enough. Yeah, I'll withdraw the previous, and the motion at this time is to add the council or jet for CPR 2021-11 at this time.
Okay, is there a second? It's been moved by Councilman Brewer and seconded by Councilman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
why wouldn't we just pass this on all three readings?
I think, I'm
I'm
sorry.
sorry.
go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was thinking it'd be a good opportunity for us to have a discussion with the public to really elevate the issue. And by giving it that opportunity, to highlight it, and we can kind of really talk about it, to really emphasize it. Otherwise, it's just a sheet of paper, I guess, that we can mail to NIPSCO. But I think it might merit conversation, for people to understand what the implications are and so forth.
I have no objection to that, Mr. President, but I would assume we're going to send this to the utility commission downstate. I mean, we got to do something with it. That's what my concern. Do we know when that commission the utility commission will decide whether to allow the 17%, or has it already done so?
I don't know. I'll ask someone from the administration. This is sponsored by the mayor's office. Would anyone from the administration like to respond to those questions?
Mr. President, I don't know when this will be before the IURC, but since I don't know, I think that the council's idea to have this discussed at a committee is fine. I don't think we are pressed by time. They just announced the 17% increase, so I'm sure we'll have an opportunity to voice our concerns.
Thank you. Any additional questions or discussion? All right. Did you have any other remark, Councilman Lay? I know you were.
Well,
Before a motion was made, you wanted to
the question wasn't answered, but we don't know, so we might as well proceed.
All right. Okay, no other questions or discussion? Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, are you all getting feedback? Okay, with a vote of 9-0, CPR 2021-11 is moved to the Public Safety Committee for the.
That was the amendments.
I'm sorry. CPR 2021-11 is amended by adding all council members to this ordinance. All right, Councilman Brewer.
Mr. President, at this time, I'd like to move CPR 2021 to committee, Public Safety Committee on second reading, Tuesday at 5:45 p.m.
Second.
Been moved by Councilman Brewer and seconded by Councilwoman Barnes Caldwell. Any questions or discussion? Seeing and hearing none, roll call, Madam Clerk.
Councilwoman Atkins,
Yes.
Councilman Brewer,
Yes.
Councilwoman Brown,
Yes.
Councilman Brown,
Yes.
Councilwoman Caldwell,
Yes.
Councilman Lay,
Yes.
Councilman Weatherspoon,
Yes.
Councilman Williams,
Yes.
and President Godwin.
Yes.
Mr. President, vote is 9-0.
With a vote of 9-0, CPR 2021-11 is moved to the Public Safety Committee with a committee meeting to be held on October 12th at 5:45 p.m. And it will be held via Zoom with a public hearing on October 19th at 6:00 p.m.
Mr. President, as pending ordinance and resolutions on second reading.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. This time we will have our mayor's report.
Good evening, Mr. President. members of the council. On behalf of Mayor Jerome A. Prince, I'd like to announce that this Thursday, October 7th, the mayor will be holding the first in a series of community forums. It will be held in the council chambers at 6:00 p.m. The second one is on Tuesday, October 12th at the Art House. The third is on Thursday, October 21st, the location to be announced. The fourth and final in the October series is Thursday, October 28th at Marquette Park Pavilion. Next Monday, October 11th, 2021, the city of Gary will celebrate its first Mayor Richard Gordon Hatcher Day on the south side of City Hall. The program will be held outdoors, weather permitting, and it will begin at 11:00 a.m. The program will feature members of the Hatcher family, Mayor Prince, and members of the Gary Common Council. That concludes the mayor's report.
Thank you. Any questions or discussion from council
Yes.
members for
Mr. President.
Councilman Weatherspoon and then Councilman Lay?
Thank you, Mr. President. Deputy Mayor, today I witnessed a high-speed chase by a county police vehicle. This county police vehicle was chasing, another vehicle that was occupied by young people from Clark Road all the way down to Burr Street. When that vehicle, and through a neighborhood, let me add through a neighborhood, a residential area, when that vehicle hit Burr Street, it ran into a school bus that was headed to West Side. Fortunately, the school bus was not coming back from West Side. And of course, the bus was turned over. I mean, it was ugly. Can't imagine what would happen if children had been on that bus. But it brought to mind a question that I have about our policy and the county's policy on high-speed pursuits through our neighborhoods, because those high-speed pursuits, could end up fatal, could end up deadly for our innocent citizens. So what I'm asking is if you would check with our police department, see what their policy is on high-speed pursuits, in particular through neighborhoods. I know there have been other municipalities that have put some limits on those high-speed pursuits because of the damage that they cause. But if it's possible that you can also check with the county and see what their position is also on high-speed pursuits. Again, we understand and recognize the fact that, those individuals that break the law must be apprehended, no doubt about that. But at the same time, we also have to be, very, very vigilant and think about those innocent citizens who may get caught up in situations such as that. Again, today, we were very fortunate that there were no children on that bus. And I mean, for that vehicle to hit that bus and turn that bus over as it did, it was going at a very high rate of speed with pursuit behind it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilman Weatherspoon, for your report. I will look into what the Lake County Sheriff's Department's policy is, and you will either hear from the administration or from our law department with respect to that. I do see that Chief Evans is on the line. If he might be able to shed some light on the Gary Police Department's policy on high-speed pursuits at this time, but I don't want to put him on the spot. If he needs to prepare that material for you at a later time, he will do that and let you know at this time.
Good afternoon. I would just speak very briefly, and thank you, Deputy Mayor McCain and Councilman Witherspoon, for your question. And I appreciate your comment on the issue. So our policy within the Gary Police Department, which we will provide to the Public Safety Committee, is quite clear that high-speed pursuits or pursuits of any kind, when an officer is attempting to curb or stop a vehicle, the officers should do this with due regard, as well as our supervision monitoring the call by radio and canceling the pursuit if they feel in any way that this is dangerous. In fact, just 1 month ago, while leaving the station, I myself attempted to curb a vehicle that ran a stoplight. The vehicle then made a dangerous U-turn on Grant Street, headed northbound toward down Grant Street, and then when they got on Fifth Avenue, it went against traffic. I canceled my attempt to stop the vehicle and followed at a very slow distance to alert traffic that was oncoming that this vehicle, so they would look up and see my lights and sirens, and I had to let the vehicle go. And that's our procedures, that's our policies. Unfortunately, these things happen when you're trying to stop vehicles. It is something that none of us want to happen. But as far as other agencies, each individual agency has an individual policy. So I will get our policy to the Public Safety Committee for review. And as Deputy Mayor stated, he can reach out to, or we reach out to the county department for theirs.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate that.
Any other questions or discussion?
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay?
backing up to the October, I believe it's October the 11th, where we will be celebrating the former Mayor Richard Gordon Hatcher's Day. This council devoted an extraordinary amount of time, and the idea came from the council, as I recall, to no longer use Columbus Day. I believe that's what we got rid of. I believe very specifically the president of the council should be on program at a very specific time. In other words, that should be made all of the time to the president of the legislative body, because we played a major role in fact, suggesting the date and also the name of the individual, because we did even have a discussion whether it should be done on his birthday, whether it should be an America Day or whatever it is. So I'm asking Deputy Mayor that very specifically Mr. Godwin be placed on a program at a specific time. And of course, for some reason, if he's unable to make the October the 11th date, then it should be extended to the vice president of the council, Councilwoman Ty Atkins from the 4th District, who is our vice president.
Thank you, Councilman Lay. President Godwin is scheduled to give some remarks on Monday, October 11th, Richard Gordon Hatcher Day. So you're preaching to the choir.
I didn't understand it. I thought you said the council itself. I didn't hear Mr. Godwin's name mentioned specifically. I'm saying not a section for the council, but for the leadership of the council. I think that certainly should be granted to the council, that a person we have established as leader be given the opportunity to speak.
I apologize for my oversight, sir, but President Godwin has agreed to speak and give remarks at Richard Gordon Hatcher Day.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Councilman Lay. What is the date, the time for the October 28th gathering at other plans at Marquette Park?
For the community forum, Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
I am not 100% certain, but I believe it will be the same time, 6:00 p.m.
Okay. I'd like to make it. I have a flight somewhere that morning. I didn't know that when this was going to be happening, but I will see what I can do. Now, the Hatcher Day, can you say the logistics on that again?
Yes. The ceremony will be on the south side of City Hall in front of the Richard Gordon Hatcher statue at 11:00 a.m. on Monday, October 11th.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Any other questions or discussion for members of the administration?
Mr. President,
Councilwoman Atkins.
I just wanted to ask Attorney McCain. Attorney McCain, can you have Ms. Cynthia or a member of the team email us those dates that you all have set out for all of the town halls? Even though the some of the locations I think were to be announced, if we can get that, because some of us have community meetings come up, and at least we could try to help get the word out.
Thank you very kindly. We will do that, Madam Vice President.
Thank you. Mr. President?
Councilwoman Atkins.
Not another question for Attorney McCain, but I don't know if it's appropriate at this time. I wanted to, for the record, clarify some of the ordinances that were sent back to committee that we did not assign to a specific committee meeting date. Is that appropriate to do that at this time, or do you want to?
Well, let's confirm there's no other
Comments
questions
for-
or discussion. And then we can do that for the administration. Any council members have other questions or comments? Okay. We'll end that portion of our program. And now, Councilwoman Atkins.
Okay, just for the record, just wanted to let the public as well as council members know there was some ordinances from our previous meeting on September the 21st that were sent back to committee. And so since we have changed dates and times, we need to clarify that, as well as those particular ordinances related to the budget. We need to assign those to a specific date and time. So the CPO 2021-75, that one was introduced to us on first and second reading September 21st. That is the ordinance related to the Community Development Block Grant Program, the Emergency Solutions Grant Program, Home Program, et cetera. Basically our famous Department of Community Development. And so that particular ordinance will also be on the agenda for the October 12th meeting at 7 p.m. This is the Ways and Means Committee. CPO 2021-72, the ARPA plan, just for the first set that we've already discussed, will also be on the agenda for October 12th, 7 p.m. CPO 2021-71, which is that special revenue or special redevelopment budget, which is in the Finance Committee. We'll review that on the agenda for Tuesday, October the 12th at 6 p.m. The following two CPOs, we will host a joint Finance and Ways and Means Committee meeting. I am going to set the meeting for October the 14th, if there's no objections, but that will mean that we will have meetings on the 12th and the 14th. But I don't want to push it far back because we need to get it done and try to have it on third and final in that October the 19th meeting, okay? Okay, colleagues. So we'll have a joint Finance and Ways and Means Committee meeting for CPO 2021-73, as well as CPO 2021-74, which is both the salary and operating budgets for 2022. That meeting will take place on Thursday, October the 14th at 5:30 p.m. via Zoom. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Mr. President,
Councilman Lay.
after you and I had our discussion today, we're going to have to ask Councilwoman Atkins how this works. Where is the council budget, the salaries, in 73 or 74? Where is the council?
Yes.
In 73.
Yeah,
Councilwoman-
I'm sorry,
Oh, go
Mr.
ahead.
President.
Go ahead.
Councilman Lay, yes, it's in 73 and our department is Department 20. So it
And-
should be the second one in the packet.
And okay, and that will be discussed at the upcoming meeting.
Yes, sir. We will review that one on October the 14th, the Thursday meeting.
Now, here's the question, and I certainly don't mean to speak for Mr. Godwin. We didn't seem to have an answer to it. If you're going to amend, let's say 73 or 74, would you do it by line item, or would it come in as by substitution? How, I mean, I asked him today and he wasn't clear, and I certainly didn't know. So if we're doing something with 73 or 74 salaries, will it come in very specific, a line item, or will we just say, well, we're going to do the whole thing by substitution?
That's a good question.
It is a very good question. I'm going to yield to Attorney Williams. And Mr. Outlar, you need to accept being a panelist. To also,
Mr. Outlaw, I didn't suggest that we were going to veto. I wanted to know, in other words, if you do it by substitution and you're only changing one item, will we be then told what that one item or two items will be? And in other words, since we're, you can, strike and insert and delete and insert under our rules, you can do it both ways. That's all I was asking. I'm not trying to veto anything. I'm just trying to get it so the public would understand it.
Yes, Mr. President.
Mr. Outlar?
Yes, I would say if we're just changing line items, then we amend by line items. It's no use to change about a total substitution unless we're changing the entire budget. But if we're just changing specific line items, then we would amend by line item. And of course, Councilman Lake, to your point, we would notify the council of and the public of those said line items and what the changes are, and with the narrative as to why.
So as a hypothetical, let's say the council, someone makes a motion to change the city clerk's budget, right? And so you're saying we would do, let's say there's 20 different changes in the budget that come by motions for amendments. We would do those individually, or we could do those individually. Because we have it's very clear. We can cut, we can reduce anything, I believe, personnel and operations, and we can increase public safety, police and fire. Those are our major powers. Is that correct?
Yes,
that is correct.
But
okay.
But if it's something as massive as 20 to 30 line items, just say in the city clerk or in the city council budget, then yes, we would amend by substitution. But if we get to a department where we want to make one adjustment, then we'll just make that one adjustment and not by line item and not by total substitution.
And I think the second part of that is it would be a vote for each particular line item or particular budget, right? It wouldn't be, let's just say someone has an amendment by substitution that has all of those 20 changes in it, right? That could be one vote for all those 20 changes. But I think what Councilman Lay and I were discussing is, could you break some of those up, right? Where it's individual line items. And this is important because we may very well be in that scenario. Does that make any sense, that question?
Mr. President, I think Mr. Outlaw said we could, I think he said we could do that. He's only concerned with the 20, but I would assume if we're doing 1, 2, or 3, and it was 50 in there, we wouldn't have to do it by substitution. We could do it by that line item. That's what you and I had to question. I mean, we have a lengthy discussion. How could we go in there and do that? So I believe that, I think Mr. Outlaw has answered the question. I agree with what he has said so far. I don't have any disagreement with it. And then you raised, what do we do if we got 20? Do they tell us these 20? And do we vote on the 20? Now that's I believe it's the question you just raised, which I'd like to know the answer to that too.
Well, yes. If we're doing 20 in a specific budget, then that would be a substitution, and we would vote for it as a substitution and not by line item. But however, we should notify the public of said line items that are being changed.
I agree with that. Okay.
Right. And let me just speak for clarification. When you say per budget, you're not saying per ordinance, right? You're saying per budget within a particular ordinance, right? Because CPO 2021-73 has several quote unquote budgets, right, for various departments.
Correct.
And likewise with 74.
Exactly. I mean by per department, not by per budget, per department. So where we have multiple departments within the ordinance, then we're voting per department.
Okay. I think that's clear to me. And I'd be curious, is the corporation counsel on this evening?
No, he's not, Mr. President. He's on personal leave of death in the family.
Oh, sorry to hear that. So I would just like to confirm, to reduce confusion as much as possible. I agree with Attorney Williams and Mr. Outlaw, but I'd like to also make sure that we're all operating under the same interpretation of what is possible and allowable. So if you could, someone from the Corporation Counsel's office kind of get back to us on that. Just want to make sure we're on one accord when it comes to that.
I will relay the message to him, Mr. President.
And thank you, and also our condolences. So don't bother him anytime soon, but appreciate that. I want to, I see that Mr. Vicari is on, and before I probably should have done this earlier, but I see he's on now. The issue that Councilman Brewer raised earlier about the sanitary district bills that landlords are being left with when tenants leave and they haven't paid their sanitary district bill. Both of us have gotten complaints, and I'm sure others, about this policy, and wanted to get your insight on it, Mr. Vicari, as the director over there. Obviously, we know that is beyond our purview because the sanitary district has its own board, but we think it's our duty to respond to citizens' concerns. So, Mr. Vicari?
Yeah, same. I'm here, Councilman. I'm sorry. I did get a text from a coworker that there were just some discussion on this, and I apologize. I was in the middle of football practice with my son, but I think what you're talking about is landlords are held responsible for their tenants' sanitary district, NIPSCO, American Water, whatever utility bills. That is by state law. State law requires landlords to be held responsible as the real property owner for all delinquent utility bills.
Thank you. And if you could, I know you have very little to do in life. That was a joke. But if you could put that in a memo and maybe just quote the state statute, and I'd like to just hand that to the individuals who have that concern, and and just put it out there. This is, and I suppose, I don't know, that other districts probably follow the same rule. I could be wrong, but if
No,
it's state
absolutely.
law,
That's statewide.
gotcha. So if you could just maybe just quote that statute in a memo and some bullet points, I think that will be helpful to clear any confusion. And maybe landlords on their own volition might take a higher security deposit, or choose to keep it in their name in the first place so they can manage what's going on and just include that in the rent to kind of eliminate that concern. I know another concern that comes up, and I've seen it, people purchase homes and title companies don't always check with the sanitary district to ensure that there's no outstanding bill. And I know even one of your employees a couple of years ago had a hard time being able to get water service because he bought a house and the sanitary district bill hadn't been paid. Title company didn't catch that, didn't even look for it, I don't believe. And so I know that's also a challenge, but as you could just put out some information for folks, I think that would be helpful.
Sure. And if I may add one thing, Councilman?
Yes, sir.
On the 30th day from which a bill is due, bills are considered late, and there's a late penalty of 10% applied. On the 45th day, if it's still unpaid, we send out shut-off notices, letting folks know if they don't pay that their services for water will be shut off. And again, by state statute, as the sewer utility, we have the ability to reach out to American Water, and they will shut your water off for non-pay of the sewer bill. On that 45th day, we don't just send that shut-off notice to the customer, or in this case, the tenant. We also sent a duplicate shut-off notice to the real property owner or the landlord. So it's no mystery. The landlords are getting notice that the water utility, I'm sorry, the sewer bill is unpaid and it's about to be have the water shut off. In some cases, we found, for whatever reason, the real property owner does not have the proper address shown for notices, and that as recorded with the Lake County recorder. You need to make sure that if you want those notices, that it goes to whatever address you reside. In some cases, we've seen where the address for the customer or the tenant is the same as the landlord for whatever reason. Recently came up, I'll leave the names out of it, but someone had reached out and said they didn't get notice. Well, both the shut-off notices are going to the same customer address, because that's the only information we have to go by, whichever is recorded with the county. So I'm sorry for the lengthy explanation, but I just wanted to mention that as well. It's no mystery when this happens. Real property owners are notified.
Well, thank you. And I guess I would ask a question, and I don't want to belabor the point, but I know this concerns a lot of folks. How do these bills then get to be so high, right? So if you cut it off after the 45th day, are you allowing some people to, go on for longer? I guess the trash pickup is part of this as well. That's my first question. The second question is, because I need to go down there myself, I used to go in the 504 Broadway, and every time I was in that building for a meeting, I'd just go down there and say, what do I owe, and pay it. So when is that location going to be reopened at 504 Broadway? I know it's extremely convenient for a lot of our residents. And I know it's been closed for some months now. So those are my two questions. Thank you.
I'll take the second question first, if I may. We have no plans to open that office anytime soon amidst this pandemic. In fact, we have 2 employees that are COVID positive right now that work in that space. It's a smaller space. Even without the general public, we're having issues. So we have no intention of opening that office anytime soon. We do have the drop box. You can pay by mail. You can pay by calling our customer service number. You can also pay online on our website. So there's multiple ways to pay, and we're dealing with this pandemic the best we can in that respect. The first question is, why do the bills get so high? Could be a number of reasons, but I'll point out one example. You can have a tenant where the water services have been shut off. And Councilman, I'll just use you for an example. If your water was shut off at your address and the water company won't turn it on until you satisfy either the sewer or the water delinquency, I, Dan, can call the water company and say, I want the water services turned on at this address in my name. And the water company does it. It's a little bit of a problem for us, because that's what happens. Is the real property owner now, even unbeknown to them, could have someone's cousin, their sister, their brother, their dad, whoever, put the water service back on in their name. What the water company is told by these folks that will call in that case, is that I'm a new tenant, right? You must have, you got to go chase that other person for the money they left. And it is a real problem. It happens, but again, that's why landlords need to be very vigilant. I know one person that has numerous properties that they rent, and they, in the lease agreement, they require the tenants to provide proof of payment of the utilities on a month-to-month basis, so that does not happen to them.
Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman Lay.
I want to ask Mr. Vicari a question also. And this is a real one. The property is not occupied, and through vandalism or some other way, water was left on at the property. So the bill went from like $30 to $400. I'm not sure how many readings that were, how much time elapsed. What, if anything, can be done about that?
Again, we don't have the ability to control those water consumptions. The water company does. I can't speak for the water company, so don't quote me, but I do know that on a case-by-case scenario, when something like that does happen and it's a one-off scenario and the customer doesn't have a history of calling up complaining about usage, they will make an adjustment. I've seen it done over and over again. And once they've made that adjustment, and it's their call, right? They're a private water utility. The next month, that negative reading will show up on the sewer bill. So the sanitary district too, we're getting into the weeds here a little bit, I know, but the sanitary district, we buy from the water company. Again, it's a private utility. We purchase from them month to month everybody's water consumption data. And then that data we feed into our billing software. So if there's a high reading one month, people will get a high water bill, and then right behind it, the next month they're going to get a high sewer bill, because that's by the time we purchase the data from them and produce our own bills and mail them out, there's a little lag time there. If that customer calls Indian American Water and they don't have a lot of prior history of calling in saying, hey, I need an adjustment, something's wrong. And by the way, the water company usually will come out and check the meter. In a lot of cases, they'll change the meter out to make sure there's no problem. They'll also make sure that the customer knows that, hey, make sure you don't have any leaking toilets or so forth. And then there's those cases too where I know that, there could be an angry tenant that for whatever reason turned on the water and left, right? And left a faucet running. And now all of a sudden you have $400 of water consumption in 1 month. Again, I can't speak for them, but the water company I've seen a lot of times will make that one-time adjustment. And then the next month, it will follow up as an adjustment in the sewer bill.
Thank you. You've actually told me what I can tell my client. Go back to the Indiana American Water, because it was through vandalism. It's nobody been in the property for a year. So there's never been this type of utility bill there. It's tied into an estate, in fact. Thanks a lot. And that is a suggestion I give my client.
You're welcome, Councilman.
Thank you, Councilman Lay, and thank you, Mr. Vicari. You also messaged me that folks can come to the headquarters of the Gary Sanitary District if they don't want to go online to pay their bills and I suppose ask questions as well.
Councilman, I'm so sorry. I misunderstood your question. People cannot come. People cannot come to the wastewater plant. It's we're a highly secure facility. We don't let the general public there. It's actually a very hazardous environment of deep tanks of sewer water that we're treating at any given time. But if there are special needs, they can always call our customer service number and we'll take those on a case-by-case basis. But I misunderstood. I thought you meant you, sir. I thought you meant you would like to come by and visit the headquarters, and I said yes, by all means. But no, the general public is not generally accepted at the wastewater plant.
Thank you.
And that's why we have the 504 billing centers, because we don't want people at the wastewater facility.
Okay.
Mr. President, is it, my question is it 24 hours to be able to pay the bill? Because I've tried sometime now, especially paying my mother bill, I'm not able to pay the bill after a certain time.
You can pay anytime online, and anything posted prior to midnight, post that day. We process it, and it'll actually post the next morning, but nothing's real time, but it'll show the next morning by 6 a.m. But I'm not sure I quite understood your question. I mean, it's you pay today, it'll show up the next day.
So if I'm calling the telephone number that's on the bill, sometimes if I call late, I'm not able to get no one to pay the bill. So what you're saying, I guess it must be service hours. You can call that number. If you want to pay after hours, go online.
Right. I'm sorry. So if you want a live body, you have to call between 8 a.m. and 4:30 p.m. And you're talking to a live body at 504 Broadway. If you want to call before or after those hours, you won't get anybody. So your options at that point are either send it in by mail, or the Dropbox location at 504 Broadway, right on the Broadway side of the Gary Bank building. Or you can go to garysanitary.com, click the Pay My Bill link, and it'll bring you through our Paymentus payment process. And you can do that 24/7.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any other questions for members of the administration? Okay, is there any other new business or other items that we need to entertain this evening, council members? Okay, there's one member of the public who was asked to speak. You'll have 2 minutes, Mr. Robert Buggs.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to let Mr. Bakari know that I had attended once and I notified them that the bill was getting increasingly high. And they sent out 4 shut-off notices and they never shut the water off. And it went from 200, 300, 400, and they was indicated on every shut-off notice till it got up to over $1,000. And I had asked them to shut it off. They said I couldn't shut it off because it wasn't in my name. And the other thing is, it's not all utilities. It's only the sanitary district that happens. Only the sewage bill, not all utilities. So that question did come up, and I did notify them before the tenants moved to shut them off because it was getting bigger and bigger, and I don't want to run into that problem again. And they never shut it off, although they sent 4 different shut-off notices every other month. So I just want to make that clarification. It is not all utility bills. It's only the sewage bill.
Thank you, Mr. Buggs. I don't know if Mr. Vicari wants to respond.
No, no comment.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you all. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Good morning, Mr. President.
We stand adjourned. Have a good evening.